Hi everyone, and welcome to the Knit California podcast. My name is Leslie. I am Knit California here on YouTube and also over on Instagram and TikTok, and this is episode 34. I'm coming at you today. It is Thursday afternoon / evening. I've had a long week at work, but I'm actually on PTO tomorrow. I have the day off. So we are celebrating by filming the podcast a little bit early. Usually I film on Friday afternoons, but I'm going to be busy tomorrow. And I figured since it was Thursday evening, I'm not working tomorrow, I would have a little glass of wine while filming today's episode. I have not filmed any episodes while drinking wine, and I really enjoy wine. I live near a bunch of wineries. We go to the wineries quite often, so I don't know why it's taken me 34 episodes to drink a glass of wine while filming the podcast, but here we go. It's a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's in my Teague stemless wine glass. I got this from like a local shop in Hawaii a few years ago. I have no idea if you can still get these. I don't remember what the store was called, so I'm sorry, but it's really cute. So if you're also having some wine, a beverage, or even just coffee, tea, or water, cheers to you. Okay. I really don't want that to spill all over my yarn and projects, so he's going up there for Tiki God to watch over us as we film today's episode. It's also like really dark and like raining outside, so I've got the ring light set up, and if you've watched any of my episodes before, you would also know that like normally I'm wearing my glasses, and I just figured like with the ring light on, I didn't want to worry about it, so we're going glasses less today. And the last thing that you may notice is I've got a finished object that I'm wearing. This is what we're going to start with. This is my Semper sweater. The pattern is by the Knit Purl girl, and the yarn that I used is two yarns. So Ken yarn in the Aurora fingering base in the colorway Raspberry Sunday, held together with one strand of Lang lace mohair in the color Raspberry. I thought it was pretty hilarious that both colorways had raspberry in the name, but it just worked out. It was very perfect, and they look amazing together. The lighting is not being super color accurate. I don't know, it's coming off like a little bit darker. If I hold the swatch up, it's a little bit more realistic. This is like a bright pink. I don't want to say hot pink because it's definitely got that more like raspberry look to it, but it's bright, and I have some extras of the yarn. The fingering weight and the mohair held together. This mohair being a little bit darker, and just the like makeup of it, it's a little bit shiny, really brings in a lot of depth to the color of the actual sweater. I love it. It's amazing. This Lang lace mohair is one of my favorite mohairs. It is, let me just tell you the makeup of this. It's 58% Super Kid mohair and 42% silk. So the fact that it has like a higher silk content than a lot of other mohairs, it just makes it softer and, to me, like less itchy. I still get like a little bit of sensitivity, especially on like the back of the neck and sometimes on my arms, but if I'm wearing like a undershirt underneath this, then like my body is like fine. I don't get itchy at all. Although now that I'm saying itchy, I'm like But yeah, that's one of my favorite mohairs to use. So let's talk about this pattern. I started this on February 16th and I finished it on March 23rd. Overall, I am extremely happy with this pattern. I love it. I love the way it turned out. The knitting process was like smooth sailing. I had no issues with the pattern or anything in the pattern at all. I did felt like it took me a little bit longer, but while I was knitting this, I was dealing with a little bit of elbow pain. I think that contributed to it. This is also the 6th like plain stockinette sweater that I've knit in a row, and I think at this point I'm just like over the plain stockinette knits. I like need something else to like break up the monotony of just the plain stockinette. So there were definitely a few days in the middle of knitting this where I was just like, I feel like it's dragging, but the end result is totally worth it. So let me walk you through some of the stats. Okay. The recommended gauge, this is like the biggest thing, is like the gauge and the sizing. This is one of the things that like I am comparing a lot, and you may be excited. Now that this sweater is done, my Raglan comparison video is coming very soon, so I'm excited about that. I need to start putting my notes together for that. So more information will be coming, but as I was knitting this, I was like really in my head comparing it to the knitting process of the Cozy Classic Raglan, and I'm just gonna be blunt. I like this sweater better than the Cozy Classic Raglan, so I said it, okay? I said it. Okay, the recommended gauge for this is 21 stitches by 28 rows on 4.5mm needles. In my swatch, I know it's pretty small, but this is my swatch. I know that swatching is good, and I hate doing it. It takes me like hours to knit this much, and then I'm just like, I'm done. But my swatch gauge was 20 stitches by 24 rows on 4.5mm needles. So the row gauge was pretty off, but she does say in the pattern that that's not going to be an issue. The designer has tighter than average row gauge, and so she writes the pattern so that row gauge is not an issue. Now stitch gauge, I was off by 1 stitch, but like I wasn't too worried about it. After knowing that, I decided to choose to make the size G, which was the 7th size in the pattern, with a 45.3 inch final bust. Now the pattern recommends 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. This is actually a little bit different than all of the sweaters that I've previously made before. A lot of them recommend like 6 to 10 inches of positive ease, somewhere in that range. So this is like meant to be a slightly tighter, more fitted sweater compared to all the other ones that I've made, which is not good or bad. It's really all based on preference. If you want a sweater with a looser gauge, go up a size and it'll be fine. Now, I wanted to choose a sweater that would end up with me having that 2 to 4 inches of positive ease, because I figured everything else that I made was larger. So let's have one that is a little bit tighter, closer to the body, just to see what it's like, just to see if I actually like it, because like in my head, when I started knitting all of these sweaters back in October, I was like, I don't want anything with like less than 10 inches of positive ease. And as I've been going through this, I've realized like it's not an issue if it's less than 10 inches of positive ease. My Dear Duomo ended up being about, it was like 4 or 6 or something, and this ended up being less than 10 inches also, and I love it. So spoiler alert, I love it. Okay. The only changes that I made from the pattern was I did end up doing a split hem at the bottom, which I'll insert a photo so you can see what that looks like. I just really like the split hem that I did on the clove sweater, and I was like, I need more sweaters with split hems, so that's why I just decided to make that decision, and I like it. And the only other thing was I added some length to the sleeves, although to be honest, I should have added more. And this is like something interesting because when I blocked this, I blocked the sleeves out like pretty long, and right after it came off the blocking mats, like the sleeves were down to my wrists. And since then, I don't know if it's just like normal wear, like when I'm wearing my sweater, that like it gets bunched up, and then again I have like, you know, 3 inches here where now the sleeve is not covering my wrist. And when I'm at work and like the office is freezing cold, having my wrists exposed like this makes me really cold. Like it makes my whole body cold to have this much of my arm exposed to the office air. So I don't know, like why haven't I learned my lesson? I just need to add like 5 extra inches onto my sleeves every time. Anyways, I do think I'm gonna go back and like add some length onto the sleeves. If you've been watching, you know that I have like repairs that I want to make to almost all of my sweaters that I've knit recently, and I think as we go into the spring, especially if it like ever stops raining here, then as we move into warmer weather, I'll have a little bit more time to like make all these repairs on my sweaters so that it's ready for next fall and winter when I can wear all these again. So the other thing that I want to talk about is the neckline. And this is like one of the biggest, I guess, comparisons. You can see I'm wearing a sports bra under it, which probably was not the best option to show you what I'm talking about, but like whatever, I can't be bothered sometimes. In comparing this to the Cozy Classic Raglan, the neckline for the Cozy Classic Raglan is like extremely wide, and I don't like it. You can see everything underneath. It like comes out to like here. You'd be able to see this. If I'm wearing a t-shirt, you'd be able to see it. I really, really like that this neckline is closer to the neck. I know that this is also a preference thing. I know a lot of people like it a little bit lower, and it does. It's kind of meant to like slightly stand up a little bit. So just like, if this isn't something that you enjoy, maybe you'll want to do a different type of neckline, but I really like that it's closer fitting to my neck and that you can't see anything that I'm wearing underneath it, except for my sports bra. But we're just gonna put some hair over it and it's fine. So there we go. After blocking the sweater, my final blocked gauge was 22 stitches per 4 inches. So recommended was 21. My swatch was 20, so it was less than 21. And my final blocked was 22, which is more than 21, which doesn't really make sense. I don't really know how that happens, but it's all in the same realm, so whatever, I'm okay with it. The part that really matters is the finished sizing. The finished bust ended up at 44 inches. So I specifically chose to make the size in the pattern that said a 45-inch bust because I knew that my finished object would probably end up slightly smaller than that just because of how my like gauge and tension is, which is what happened. I ended up at 44 inches, which for me equals 4 inches of positive ease, which is exactly what was recommended in the pattern. So overall, I don't know if you can tell, I put a big check mark right there. I was happy with the gauge that it ended up and the size that it ended up being. I also did add length to the body in general. That's something that I do to a lot of my sweaters. Even though I have a short torso. I guess I feel like I like sweaters to be a little bit longer than they are knit to pattern, and length is also a preference thing. I think everyone changes the length of their sweaters, so you do you when it comes to that. But that's my finished Semper sweater by the Knit Purl girl, and I love it. I love it so much. It's great. So everyone, cheers to your finished objects. Okay, let's talk about my new whip. I did not have this started last time I talked to you. Podcast, or my last video was my spring knitting plans. This also was not started when that video came out. I started this. Can you hear the dogs? It's dinner time. I started this last Friday, so a week ago tomorrow. And it's almost done. This is the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. And if you don't know the Ranunculus pattern, like, where have you been? And the yarn that I'm using, let me show you, is this. This is Sorella yarn in her Silk DK base. It's 50% silk, 50% superwash merino wool, and the colorway is Pampas from her summer tonal collection. This yarn is incredibly like silky soft, very smooth. It's very drapey. You can see how it just like folds in the skein form. But I love it. It's this nice like neutrally green color that actually like it looks really good on me. I really like it. And this pattern is knitting up so quickly, so fast. So the Ranunculus, an extremely popular pattern in the knitting community. If you ever go on Ravelry and you just like search the like hot right now that's on the homepage of Ravelry, you will see this pattern. It's got thousands of finished objects. It's always in the hot right now. And honestly, like, I kind of felt weird about making this pattern. I was like, why is it always in like the top 10? Are there like bots that are constantly clicking on it to like constantly keep it up in the top 10? Like, it's very weird that it's always there. But the story behind why I'm making this is my friend Christine and I have decided that we're going to go visit the Carlsbad flower fields at some point in April or May here in San Diego. And the flowers that they grow at the Carlsbad flower fields are ranunculus flowers. So we were like, obviously, we need to make ranunculus sweaters to wear to go visit the ranunculus flowers. So that's what we're doing. And this has been the fastest knit in like the history of the world. Again, I started this last Friday. I am on the ribbing, the twisted rib at the bottom, and then I'm just gonna pick up and knit a couple inches for short sleeves, add a little bit of a twisted rib onto the sleeves, and this will be done. I'm like honestly, I really want to finish it this weekend. I just want it to be like a 10-day project, and then I'm gonna be like, it's done. Let's go. No, I have to wait for Christine to finish hers also, but I think she might also be on the ribbing. So for me, I think it's a mixture of a very large gauge, very large needle size, and the fact that this was lace, which was very different from the plain stockinette that I've been doing for 6 months. Really just like made me fly through the beginning of this pattern. Another interesting thing I have seen a lot of people say they've made the ranunculus, but I've never seen anyone like actually talk through like making it. And so I didn't know this about the pattern, but you can see that the lace is like a circular yoke, right? Well, the interesting thing is it's a circular yoke that is the same stitch count for all sizes. So when you start the pattern, there's just one set of numbers, and then you knit the circular yoke. And then, I don't know if you can see this, then there are raglan increases to do the sleeve separation and to like make it the size that you want it to be. So it's kind of like a joint circular yoke plus raglan style sweater, which is like very interesting. And when I tried this on yesterday, I was like, this fits really nicely. This is like very weird. But I think this almost like fixes the problem that a lot of people have with circular yokes, where they're just like, they don't quite fit right, and I love it. There's also short row shaping in the circular yoke section, oops, both in the back, so all this in the back, and in the front. There's a little bit here in the front, which I've never really done short rows in the front before, but it looks good. It looks really good. So the other thing with this is it's recommended a 14 stitches per 4-inch gauge, which is huge. Now this is one of those patterns where you can choose like what weight of yarn to use. So you can knit this in anything from lace weight to like worsted, maybe even like Aran or bulky weight. As long as you hit 14 stitches per 4 inches, that's fine. And what that means is like if you're using a fingering weight yarn, you're gonna get like a super airy and like gauzy looking garment. It might be see-through, it'll kind of be holey, but like it's a look, right? So if you're doing that, you're doing that on purpose. I'm using this Silk DK, which is like very plump, and the large gauge just like allows a lot of room for the yarn to like plump up. It's not very tight, and this is something that I kind of like, but I'm also holding an opinion until I actually wear the garment and see what it feels like. So since this is more of a summer fiber, silk plus merino, it is supposed to be a little bit more lightweight than like 100% wool. The problem that I've had in the past with summer fibers, for example cotton, I have a couple knit t-shirts that I knit with cotton, and I find that they're very heavy. I find that the DK weight cotton is very thick and like dense, and I don't particularly like that in the fabric because it's not like breathable and it feels like I'm being weighed down. So I'm really interested to see how this is gonna wear. The fabric kind of does feel thick, it feels kind of squishy, but I know that the large gauge is allowing room for like the stitches to kind of like move around or like not be like super tight and dense together. So we'll see how it wears. That's going to be the big test. Like when I wear this to the flower fields and it's inevitably going to be like a sunny day, like am I going to overheat in this and start sweating and need to take it off, or am I going to be okay? That is the big question. But I'm sure next time you see this, it'll be done, and we'll be talking about it as a finished object, so I'm excited. I think one of the other things I wanted to talk about was the neckline. So there are two neckline options in the pattern. One is for a wider neckline, and the other is for a more smaller neckline. I chose to knit the smaller neckline because I don't want that boat-shaped neck that I talked about earlier. And in knitting the smaller neckline, it has you do a provisional cast on, which, provisional cast on. I don't enjoy the process. I almost ripped it out multiple times. I thought it looked sloppy, but I just kept going. And eventually, it looks fine. Like, overall, the neckline looks totally fine. So, this is just inspiration for you if you're doing a provisional cast on and it looks really wonky and like it's not gonna work out. Just keep going. If you're like the stitches where you like join in the round, if they look like they're really wide, just keep going. You can always take the tail and like seam it together at the end. Just keep going, it's gonna be okay. So, and like you can't really tell, like you're gonna be wearing this beautiful lace sweater and you think people are gonna be looking at the very top of it? No, they're gonna be looking at this nice detail that you've got here. So that's my ranunculus. Here's probably your only whip shot of it, so I love it. I'm excited. It's my first spring knit. This was the first knit that I said I was going to make in my spring knitting plans video last week, so that's really fun to be able to say like, this is what I'm going to make, and then, hey look, I actually made it. So, really happy about that. Alright, I have one other work in process that I want to show you. Let's take a sip of wine first. Delicious. Alright, this is my Musselburgh hat. Musselburgh. Look, I'm not from the East Coast. I don't say Musselburgh, Musselburgh. It's spelled U-R-G-H. So it's like Musselburgh, like Pittsburgh. I don't know. Don't at me. I hear other people say Musselburgh too, so it's okay. Anyways, last podcast, I think I was like right here. I don't know if you can even see this marker because it's pink just like the hat, which I did on purpose, but like whatever. I think I was about here. I think I've made about 1.5 inches worth of progress, which is like honestly pretty good. I kept feeling like, I still feel like this is gonna drag on forever. My gauge is so small. I'm at 9 stitches per inch, which is the smallest gauge listed in the pattern, which is probably my fault. Like, I'm the one that decided to use a US 2.75 millimeter needles, but like, I don't really knit very much with fingering weight on its own, so I thought that was like the size that you needed to use, but I do wish I had gone up to like at least a 3 millimeter. I think would have been better. But then I always worry, like, is like the density not going to be right for a hat? Like, I don't know. So we'll see. I don't want to like, the needles aren't big enough for my head, but like it's looking good. And it's hot pink. These two hot pinks don't really match, but I'm still in that phase where like I want the hat to be the same color family as my sweater, like with all of my Oslo hats that I knit over the last 6 months also, so it's still pretty fun. I didn't say the yarn that I'm using is Silly Goose Yarns in her fingering weight base in the colorway Bubblegum, and I love it. It's very, very bright and very, very fun. So my goal is to knit about 1 inch every week. This is not something that I want to work on constantly. Like, I really only want to work on my sweaters all the time, so it's a goal in my planner to knit 1 inch of this every week, and I'm gonna try and do that on like work conference calls, so that maybe I like won't even notice that it's just very small stitches stockinette knitting. So that's my Musselburgh. You'll see slow progress on this over the next few weeks, so. But it's coming along. I've been like, oh no, I just made a knot in the yarn. I've been obviously watching like a lot of other people's podcasts and like following a bunch of people on Instagram who have been making hats recently, and so my hat favorites list in Ravelry is growing. I have more hats that I want to try to make that I don't think are fingering weight gauge. I think most of them are DK. So once I finish with this, I'm gonna have other hats that I want to make. So that'll be, that'll be fun. That'll be exciting. Okay. I think I mentioned this, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last podcast episode, but I definitely mentioned this in my spring knitting plans video. But the next sweater that I'm going to cast on is going to be the Provence sweater by Sorella Yarn for the Sorella Yarn make-along. They have two patterns that you can choose from. One is a knit pattern and one is a crochet pattern, and the Provence sweater is the knit pattern, and it's actually knit out of her Surrey yarn base. So that is the next thing that I'm going to be casting on. I'm really excited about it. This is actually the Surrey sock base, not the Surrey lace. So it's a slightly larger gauge, but it's 100% Surrey alpaca, 437 yards per 100 grams. And this is in the colorway Chateau. This was actually from the Fall Tonals palette, but this is what I had in my stash, and I think it's going to make a really, really gorgeous sweater. So this is what I'm going to be casting on after I finish my Ranunculus very, very soon. Hopefully this weekend, if not next week. So you probably will see the beginnings of this in our next podcast episode. So yay, just wanted to show you that one more time. Okay, that's all of my whips and FOs. So the only thing that I have left to talk about is acquisitions, and I have one yarn acquisition and my twice sheared sheep spring box, which I'm excited to share with you. Let me show you the yarn acquisition first. And I don't know the best way to like hold this up for you. It's 6 skeins of yarn, and they're kind of all in a fade, which is very unlike me. I don't typically buy fades, but I saw this and I was just like, I need all of those. I just need all of them. So let me see if I can hold these. I need to like stick them through my fingers. Hold on. This is gonna be weird. We're kind of just gonna, we're just gonna have like a weird day today. Okay, ready? The light is gonna like blow these out a little bit too. This is Fuzzy Peach Fibers, and these are the 6 colorways from her Celestial collection, and they do kind of go from like light to dark, and my plan is to make a Stripes by Andrea Mowry with these, and I'm really excited about it. So let me show you from light to dark one at a time. Although now they have dog hair all over them. Ugh. I need to vacuum the upstairs. Okay. This one is called Luminaries. And this is the lightest color. So it's got those pinks and blues, yellows and purples. It's gorgeous. This one is called Stardust. It's primarily yellow with speckles of blue and red and purple. This one is Stellify, which is like a light pink / peach colorway. This one is Aeonian, which is the pink purple colorway. This is Elysian, which is mostly purple with like yellow and pink speckles. And lastly, this is Moonbow, which is mostly blue with purple and yellow and pink speckles. Now, you can see, right, how I couldn't choose just like one color and how they just go so nicely together. I'm really excited to see how these all knit up. It's a very different color palette than what I would normally do, but I just like couldn't resist. I thought they were all so beautiful. I don't know when I'm going to be able to cast this on, but I do have a plan for it at least, so that's something. And this is 6 more skeins added back into my stash count. So we should actually talk about that. After I show you the next thing, we'll talk about that, because I haven't given you an update on like my stash goals in a while. So that was acquisition number 1. Oh my gosh. Okay, and oh, just dropping everything. The last thing I'm going to show you is this. This is the Twice Sheared Sheep Spring Surprise Box. Now, in full transparency, I was gifted this box through all of my affiliate sales from the months of December through February. So if you clicked on my link and made a purchase from December through February, you helped me earn this box. So a huge thank you just to everybody who has ever clicked on my link and made a purchase from Twice Sheared Sheep. Thank you so much. I do earn a small commission from all of those sales, and that money just really always goes back into helping me buy yarn, helping me buy equipment for the podcast, for example, the ring light and my microphone, and it just goes back into Knit California funds. I don't know, everything. So thank you. Okay, so the premise behind these surprise boxes was the holiday advent box. It did really well. It always does really well. But Dawn, who is the owner of Twice Sheared Sheep, wanted to put together boxes that could be sent out each quarter throughout the year, so that there was more goodies to go around, not just during the holidays, but also throughout the year. So there are 3 boxes, spring, summer, and fall, that are similar to the Advent box. It is less items, so the Advent box is 25 items. This is less items, but if you signed up for the subscription, then you would get 1 box each quarter. Sign-ups, you basically can't sign up anymore. They are opening the sign-ups on Friday, March 31st at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. But this video is not going to go up until Saturday. So there is a possibility that there are still slots available for the summer and fall boxes, but there's a very good possibility that they sold out on Friday. So I just have to put that plug in. But let me show you what was in the spring box. I've already opened it, obviously. I've already posted it on Instagram, so you may have seen everything over there, and if you would like to see it all again, you can go see it on my Instagram page at knitcalifornia. But this was a really fun box. A lot of these items are available on the website, but with different like images, different charms. The charms are all exclusive to this box in particular, and then some of these items are box exclusives, and I will mention that when that comes up. So the first thing that I immediately noticed in the box was this gorgeous skein of yarn. This is from Speckled Finch Studios in Northern California, and the colorway is called Poppies, which is very cute. The poppy is the California state flower, if you didn't know. And this is on their cushy merino base, which is 100% superwash merino, fingering weight, 100 grams, 490 yards, and it's a 3-ply yarn. I just think these like purple, pink, and orange colors are like actually really beautiful together, and I'm thinking of using this as color work in a sweater. I don't know which one yet, potentially the fall frolic, but I just think it's a really beautiful color and I would love for it to be the color work like star in some sweater later this year. The other like big thing in here was this project bag. And you can see it's got all these birds on it. Very, very spring. I have 2 of these project bags, so you have seen similar bags before. They're pretty big. You can fit multiple skeins in here with plenty of room for your project. And there's a zipper on the back where you can put other little goodies in here. This specific bag with the bird pattern is not available. This was exclusive. However, this, which is the same bag style with the white sheep and the black sheep, this specific bag is still available on the website. So the link for Twice Sheared Sheep, my affiliate link, will be in the description box below if you are interested in this bag. This is what my champagne cardigan is sitting in, and haven't touched that in a while. So, just been really cute to look at. All these little sheepies, right? Okay. Of course, there was a signature row counter in the box. This one with a beautiful little red butterfly tool charm on it. So, you can never have too many row counters, is what I always say. A large storage tin with a hummingbird on it. These are really great just to put all of your notions and stuff in, stitch markers, cable needles, tip ties. These fit a lot of things. Let's see. These were the exclusive stitch markers to the box. And they're 3 little birds of different colors, and they're so cute. Oh my gosh, can't even see the purple one. There you go. Cute bird stitch markers. Look at the little, there was a pair of scissors in here. Aren't these gorgeous? These like feathery wings, and they're very sharp. And they came with this hot pink cover, so those are cool. 2 progress keepers, a flower, and a little bunny. Very cute. And, oh, 2 more. These butterfly buttons, which were exclusive to the box, and there were, I think, 11 different types of like paintings of buttons that they had. So different people got different buttons. I got these red ones, which are really cute. And then lastly was this honeycomb with a bee shawl pin, which was also exclusive to the box. So things that you can still get online. They have these storage tins in with different art. The row counter with different charms, and the snag-free melody clip stitch markers, and the progress keepers. Different charms, but available on the website. Oh, and scissors. They have these like rainbow, like multicolor scissors on the website. I'm really interested in those. So those are the, that was everything in the Twice Sheared Sheep spring box. And yeah, really excited to have all of these little goodies here to add to my knitting experience. So again, thank you if you click on the link and purchase anything today, or if you ever have in the past. I really appreciate it. Okay, last thing here, let's talk about my yarn stash. The videos in February, I think I missed one and never really got the chance to talk through what happened with my yarn stash in February. As a reminder, my goal for this year is to end with a net negative number of skeins in my stash. However, if you saw my yarn stash video that I did put out a couple weeks ago, it's now less about the number of skeins and more about just like creating a stash that I love and having yarn in my stash that I love. And if something is no longer speaking to me, having the freedom to destash it, sell it, get rid of it, donate it in whatever way that I see best, and to just like curate a collection of yarns, again, that I love. So saying all of that, I am still keeping track of all of my purchases, my destashes, and everything that I use just like in my knitting, because I do think having it all written down, tracking it all, and knowing exactly what is coming in and what is going out is helping me to just like be more mindful of shopping experiences and things that I want to make, and just loving what's in my stash. So, okay, I started February 1st with 330 skeins, and it looks like I ended February at a negative. I had minus 30 skeins in February. So I made an Oslo hat. I did add some skeins back into my stash that I was going to destash. I did destash about 13 skeins, which those were not in my original like stash count. I had already pulled those out to be destashed. I used another skein for a hat. 7 skeins for a sweater. That was my lento that I frogged. So in March, those came back into my stash. And then 9 skeins. Ooh, I gotta update that because it wasn't a full 9. 9 skeins for this Semper sweater, which it actually ended up only being, let's see, I wrote this down. Ended up being 5.6, so like 6 skeins. The fingering plus the mohair together. Yeah, so basically in February, I didn't have any yarn purchases arrive, and I only purchased from one pre-order, but it still has not arrived, and I'm not counting it as added to the stash until it gets here. So February was a big out month for me. Now let's talk about March, because it's a little bit different. Okay, so I started, the numbers still don't add up, okay? Because what I keep track of in here never is what the number says it is in my tracking spreadsheet. I still don't understand the discrepancies, but it's okay. It's whatever, it doesn't really matter. So I started March 1st with 325 skeins, and this month was like down and then up and then down and then up. So I destash 10 skeins, and then I bought 3 from Apricot Yarns. And then I made 3 purchases, which 2 of those have not yet arrived. Those will probably come in a couple months. But those are going to be some big plus months as well. I got 1 skein from my twice sheared sheep box. And then I destashed more yarn. I destashed about 12 skeins. I had 7 skeins added back to my stash from the lento that I frogged. And then I got my Knitting for Olive 12 skeins for my Seasons cardigan that I'm going to make. However, I didn't like the color of those, so I actually purchased more. So I purchased 12 more skeins. I'm going to keep the skeins that already came in and potentially use them for something else later this fall. So at a total, that's going to be 24 skeins that I added to my stash. It is a worsted weight, that's why it's so many, but like, it's going to be a lot of balls of yarn. The second purchase has not yet arrived. I thought it would arrive today, and I guess it has the potential to arrive tomorrow, but at this point we'll probably just count it in April because it's fine. I got the 6 skeins that I just showed you from Fuzzy Peach Fibers. I used 1 skein in my Musselburgh, and I used 3 skeins in my Ranunculus. So I haven't done the total count here yet, but let's see. I'm plus 7 minus 4. I'm like plus 3 overall actually with all of this, which is not as bad as I thought. But with destashing like 22 skeins of yarn, that definitely helped. And that's not something that's going to happen every month because I had a big destash this month. Well, I had one in like January, right? And then I destashed a little bit in February. This month was kind of like, okay, this is the rest of it that I know now that I'm sure of that I want to get rid of. Everything... There's maybe a couple more skeins, maybe a couple more sweater quantities that may eventually get destashed, but I'm not ready to let them go yet. So I don't think there's going to be much destash happening soon from what's already in here. I do have a bunch of yarns over there that I have posted in the destash Discord server that haven't sold yet. So FYI. But that's where I'm at with my stash. So I am still enjoying the tracking process, which like to me is worth it just to keep going, even if it is a whole bunch of like plus. But you know, like this will be minus 3 or 4. You know, every sweater that I make gets yarn out of my stash too. And that's like the best way to use up yarn because then you get to knit it and then you get a sweater. So, or a hat, or whatever you make with it. So, that is that. We're coming into April in the next couple of days, so I'm excited to set up my, like, journal spreads for next month. But I haven't done that yet, so that'll be fun, and plan out like what all my knits are gonna look like for the month of April. April is the best month out of the year because it's my birthday month. That's at the end of the month though, so that's whatever. But that's it for today. Get my hair out of the way here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you'll consider making the Semper sweater someday. Add this to your favorites, add this to your queue. It's a really great basic. Look forward to the Raglan comparison video coming out very, very soon if I can get all my notes together. And yeah, one last cheers to you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and get some knitting time in. Make sure to press that subscribe button, leave a comment down below if there was anything that you loved about today's episode, hit that like button, and I will see you next week. Bye!